Okay, this is the presentation. It's Teletándem, Autonomy and Identity in a Virtual Environment. This is just something that we have been doing in my Self-Access Center that we call Teletándem. In this Teletándem session, what I'm going to explain better is what we do. And it has been running for around 8 years. We do it in 8 different languages: Japanese, Russian, Korean, English, Portuguese, French, German, and Chinese. So right now it's been for 14 years, and we have seen different things. So we are going to tell you about what is Teletándem so far. Tandem is a methodology where where we used to have like our pen pals. You introduce each other, you correct each other's Spanish or English or the language you're interested in learning. Okay, usually with Tandem we have specific activities. It can be face-to-face or virtual. When we call it about this Teletandem, we have 4 particular principles: reciprocity, autonomy, collaboration, and the existence of 2 languages we are coexisting at that moment, so to speak, because we give time for 25 minutes in one language and 25 minutes in the second language. But when we talk about Teletandem, Teletandem is a virtual environment when students from, in this case from my Self-Access Center, okay, go one-to-one through Skype. And in this Skype, they practice half time in English, Japanese, Chinese, or the language they are learning with, and helping the student abroad, in this case, in the different universities around the world that we are participating with. What they are doing is that they are helping them to learn Spanish. So this is what we call Teletandem. So we can make a difference also between telecollaboration or video conferencing, where you have many to one. This is an interaction that is one-to-one. Okay, well, and that's what we try. And I want to compare this to what Jacqueline in the beginning, she was talking about the communicative relational identity space, what I have called it CRIS or ECRI in Spanish. Okay, and I'm taking these two ideas to start some kind of research, in the sense that I think that during Teletandem, students have a shift of identity. And when they come back, they have another shift of identity, but probably they might be a little bit different, and I want to share with this. According to Dr. Vleger, she says that this communicative, relational, and identity space, it's an environment when these and identities came into a role. So they have different agents, and they came to this reflection that Jacqueline was explaining. Okay, so according to this also, we need to have 2 cultures in contact. If we take what Bloch says, David Bloch, that when you have 2 cultures in contact, there is a kind of crisis where the identity starts to be questioned, or when you're in a different culture. When you are through technology, especially through Teletandem, okay, your identity is not being questioned, but you start reflecting on the other, but not only on the other, but also on him as a learner, not him as another person. So in Teletandem research, we have found some research of cultural identities made by João Teles in Brazil, intercultural dialogue, gender identity as well, some power relationships depending on the language that I'm working with, autonomy for course, and that probably there are multiple identities. They have called, like, we have cultural identities, autonomy identity, and some others. So this is, but not so much has been done so far. So what I want to make is like a kind of comparison that Teletandem and CRIS could be like my context, where I can start talking about the environment that is a cultural exchange shock, because we have students sharing experiences with students from other countries, and they start thinking about their otherness, and their beliefs and stereotypes start changing. So during a questionnaire that we applied last year, we found out, when we asked the students, what do you think about Teletandem? This is what they say, and you have there in English. They said learning was the first one, friendship, nice, useful, interesting, challenging, stimulating, full, self-assured, and nervousness. But also there was one that I erased, that was love, but not necessarily. Okay, we applied questionnaires. We asked them to write a diary or to give us like a narrative. So what was their experience? These are the experiences from Portuguese, Spanish learners, Also from Japanese learners, and Mexican folks, and who are learning German, and some others, no? And what they think is that, and this is the quote, he says that there is a small bond that he could identify with the other person because both of them have difficulties. So what I think is that the other person is thinking about himself of a learner, and he does not recognize himself as a learner until he gets into this activity. So now he's giving a kind of shift identity, or he's developing an identity as learner. That's what I think. And another, we also make some kind of research talking about autonomy, making different kinds of categories. And in these categories, a student said that, and what they say, we could find that self-esteem increased, self-efficacy is increased, they feel more self-assured, they start monitoring, they start planning their activities for the tandem, but they got especially this part that we have the awareness of raising learning strategies and communication strategies. We also found that their beliefs evolved in the sense that they do not think that they are better learners than they thought they were. They start worrying not only about the culture from the other country, but also about their own. And you will see in these different comments that I will share with you. And together with this, I'm also using what Benson and Block said about identity, and I'm trying to use and to find probably some of this one. In this case, I'm going to try this in cultural identity in decrease, but also different points that we can have an embodied identity with the students, a reflexive identity because they start reflecting on each other, but also projected identity. The others I haven't been able to find yet. In an interview, that was like 2 weeks ago, where I had with one student, and I translated because I found it very, very, very interesting that he said that he used to be intolerant when the others did not share their point of view. But according to the time passed, and this is what happened with his partner. So I was shocked when he told me that, because I said, well, probably they didn't do the tandem sessions because they didn't like each other. There was not this chemistry. On the contrary, he says that he continued, and he thinks that you have to give people the opportunity, because now he has learned a lot, and to be especially more tolerant with other points of view. And besides, now he gets along well. No? Other says, I think I'm not the same when I am on the Teletándem. And this comment was particularly important for me. And this when I thought about this shift of identity. But also they say, I try to be cautious, especially when I speak in English, because they start thinking about if they are going to offend the other or the culture. This intercultural awareness increases. Also, this is Mexico. I was very interested because I could know more about Mexico, the country of my parents and grandparents. This is for a language heritage student. We have a program where we are with language heritage students in the United States. They have a conflict of identity as well, because they are not from the United States, or they is kind of conflict. But when they are through Teletándem with our Mexican students, they get to know Mexico, and they start building this new identity. Okay, and the other is, I thought I knew Spanish. This is a Mexican student. So, but actually it is not easy when you speak it, and I don't think about what you want to say. So now they are also reflecting on their language and the importance of knowing about themselves as learners and the language. This is another, and she says, this is for a Portuguese Spanish with Unesp. So while I was in the conversation several times, I had to stop and think if I could ask some things. So I stopped. After several sessions, I decided to ask him, but before I asked for permission. And later this about the diary, and they say that they try to monitor and self-regulate. This is what I was thinking about autonomy, and I was also, I think it was with Valkyria when I talked about self-regulation. Okay, Teletándem is a powerful tool to trigger this self-regulation, I think. And also this was about legends, and they were very, very interested because now they say that they have to investigate about Mexican culture and their legends when they are Mexicans, but they have to teach that to the other students. In the observation, this was with Japanese Spanish, we realized that when Japanese students felt more comfortable to express themselves about sex when they were speaking in Spanish rather than when they were speaking in Japanese. So that might make us think that probably their identity in Spanish is probably more open than when they are speaking Japanese. In the case of Teletándem, the Portuguese Spanish, the Mexican students In the beginning, in Mexico, if you say lindo to a man, it's not a very nice thing. And in Portuguese, it's something probably very common. So we had to, and our students started to feel like not uncomfortable, but more used to being called lindos. So my conclusions are that this kind of Teletándem is a powerful tool to improve, to gather to autonomy or to promote it, but it's also a way to start making students think about this identity and this kind of shift. So far I finished with a thank you with these beautiful pictures from my university that I hope you could visit soon. And these are some of the things that I have been checking in order to build this project and see if there is actually a shift of identity during Teletándem. Thank you.